My good-for-nothing dad tried to ruin my entire wedding, and when I say ruin it, I mean standing up and objecting to the marriage right in front of everyone. Oh, by the way, he wasn't even invited!
Hey guys, I'm Jude. I used to live alone with my dad, Frankie, until very recently when I got into a huge fight with him. Let me give you some backstory so everything makes a bit of sense to you. I'm 23. My father's always been a good-for-nothing man. Even when he was married to my mother, he was always lazy, depending on my mom for everything, so I wasn't shocked when my mother left him. My mom did not want custody of me, so my dad got me after a mutual agreement, and I must have been 13 back then. After my mom left, my dad starts to lean towards alcohol, more and more and more. By the time I turned 14, I started working at fast food chains to be able to afford supplies for school. However, my dad started whining about never being at home. I would lie and say that I was studying with a friend, scared that he would take the small amount of money I was making and spend it on alcohol. I think my dad became an alcoholic because he wanted to forget his past mistakes, and by the way, he is most innumerable. Initially, I motivated him to quit drinking, but it soon became apparent that he did not care and wasn't strong enough to live without his precious alcohol, erecting a huge wall between us. I got into community college, just 5 minutes away from my house, and I didn't want to move anywhere else because my dad owned the house. The 4 years in college were hard, as my father was often sad that I would not spend time with him. He was always so desperate and dependent on me. It was pathetic. However, he provided me with a place to live, and all I had to do was hear his constant whining during dinner as he drank himself to sleep, so I just accepted my fate. The real trouble began when I got a job after graduating college. My dad was not happy that I would be doing a job that would keep me away from him. He told me to stay at home and take care of the household, claiming that he was getting old. I think he was annoyingly insecure that I would leave him just like his wife did, which was obviously correct as I was only staying with him for the time being, just until I saved enough money so I could have my own house or find a boyfriend and move in with. However, this argument went on for days, and finally, I could not take it anymore and asked him, who would put bread on the table if I did not go to work? Because he was doing absolutely nothing to make life better for either of us. Well, that shut him up right quick, and he didn't bring up the issue again for some time. One day, I was at the supermarket buying a few things for the house when I ran into the love of my life, Erik. Erik was new to town and was stocking up his apartment. We got to talking, and he just sounded so cool. I fell in love with him right there. He asked me out on a date, and I immediately said yes. On the date, he was a perfect gentleman. He didn't let me pay, dropped me home, and even walked me to the door. I was head over heels for this man already, and once I was inside and was getting ready to go to bed, he texted me. I was shocked that he wasn't insecure and had texted me immediately. He told me that he had so much fun that night, and I told him I did as well. He asked me if it was forward of him to ask me out on another date. I was giddy when I told him that he could. He asked me out on a date at his apartment, and he promised to make dinner, and I said yes. So the next weekend, when I entered his new apartment, I wanted to spend the rest of my life in that place. The apartment was huge, minimalistic, like the apartments of rich men. Erik was a doctor, so I guess that must have helped a bit, but he also revealed that both his parents were doctors as well. It soon became clear that he had a way with his words and was in half love of the apartment as well. The night he confessed his love for me, and I told him that I loved him as well, and we both claimed to know that this was going too fast. But I felt it in my chest that this was it. Erik and I were supposed to spend the rest of our lives together. I was meant to spend the rest of my life in his apartment taking care of the household and our kids as he went to the hospital to see his patients. We spent a few more weeks dating until I wanted to show off my new boyfriend to my father. I was sure that my dad would never have expected me to be the doctor with such a great background and income. When I asked Erik if he would want to meet my father, he was eager. Well, I knew that Erik was confident that he would win over my dad with his silver tongue. However, I didn't care about it that much. I just wanted to move our relationship along even faster. When I brought him home, I could tell my dad did not approve. The more Erik talked and tried to charm my dad into liking him, I could tell the less he liked him. I wasn't looking for my dad's approval or anything, but it would have been nice to see him like someone I love. I went into the kitchen to put away the dishes, and that's when I heard my dad yell. I rushed back and he was denying Erik something, and I asked what the matter was that made him so angry. Erik revealed that he was asking my father for my hand in marriage. My heart started to pump so hard when he said that I immediately flew into his arms. My father, on the other hand, directed his anger at me. He told me that my choice was pathetic, and he claimed that he did not approve that Erik was so much older than me, and that he was already asking for my hand in marriage, as we had only been together for like 3 months. I told him that the heart wants what it wants, and I claimed that I wished to marry Erik, and that it was my choice and mine alone. This did not make my dad happy. Then I asked him to apologize to Erik, which made him downright mad. As my dad started screaming at me for being disrespectful to him, I pushed Erik out of the house and reassured him that I would talk to him the next day and then discuss everything, and then I went to deal with my dad. My dad told me that he did not like Erik at all. He seemed fishy to him, and I told him that he was absolutely perfect. He claimed to have gotten a weird vibe from him, and I just rolled my eyes. He told me that nobody is as charming as he pretends to be without hiding something. He called Erik a liar, and I have had enough. I finally told him what I actually thought. I claimed that he was just jealous because I wanted to marry Erik, which would mean that I would want to get out of this house, and he was scared that I would stop paying him off my paycheck. This made him so mad, and he screamed at me to get out of his home. I was shocked at his behavior, and I was quite angry, so I told him that I would gladly get out of his house. He went to sit in his lounge chair as I rushed to pack my bags. I was out of his house in less than an hour, and he did nothing to stop me. I was infuriated by the time I called Erik and asked if I could live with them, and he was over the moon about it. Now that I've been living with Erik for a week, I feel so much better. Sure, I'm mad that my dad kicked me out of the house because of his insecurities and jealousy, which was downright pathetic of him, but I can't deny that there's perks to what he did. I just can't believe that my dad would speak to many lies just to keep me in the house to pay the bills. Update number 1. Hello everyone, it's Jude with an update. My dad's not stopped bothering me since he kicked me out. He's been after me ever since like a leech. I've been eagerly planning my wedding, however, my dad's been constantly bothering me. He'd shown up at my work 3 times, so when I saw him the 4th time I gave in. I was tired of his antics and I wanted to show him his place in my life if he continued to treat me and my fiancé like crap. My dad, to no one's surprise, told me not to marry Erik, claiming that he was unfit for me. I rolled my eyes at the statements as I knew his actual reason for not wanting to see me marry Erik. He didn't want me to get married because he would lose another family member and someone who was feeding him. I know that my dad just wants me to not marry Erik because I was giving him money to spend. So who would do that now after I'm gone? Even now, in the face of his daughter's happiness, he was being selfish. I was done with his constant bothering and told him to leave me alone. However, he insisted that Erik seemed like he was lying, and he promised me that he would find the truth for me. I told him to back off out of my life. I told him that I knew that he was jealous that I was getting into a secure marriage with someone who would love me forever, unlike him. Before leaving, I told him to stay away from me or I would make him regret messing with me and the one that I love. Once I was at Erik's, I forgot all about him. Or at least tried to. When Erik came home, he looked stressed and I asked him what the matter was. And he claimed that he didn't have much savings for our wedding because he spent most of his life savings on the down payments of this apartment. He asked if I could ask my dad for help, and I reminded him that I was the one who used to pay for him, and he likely doesn't have much money. I told him not to worry because I had savings of my own. It was everything I had saved so far in my lifetime, some money that my mother paid as child support, and some money I got after I turned 18, from my mother's side. I promised to put all my savings into the wedding. I even promised to call my mom, who probably won't even pick up my phone, but you know what, I'll try. I will. Then we went back to talking about my dad. He was sad that my dad would treat me this way, and reassured me that he would treat me well for the rest of my life, making me feel a bit better. Update number 2. Hello everyone, this is Jude again. It's been a month since I last updated you, and I'm updating you today again because my dad tried to ruin my wedding yesterday. However, I didn't let him and took a stand for myself. I've been preparing for the wedding for the past month. Mostly Erik has been taking care of the venue and catering because he didn't want me to get stressed. I've just been in charge of my dress and makeup. However, I knew I was not going to invite my father. He's caused me enough annoyance for me to know that it would be a bad idea. It's so clear that he's jealous of me for finding a good partner. Unlike him, who could never be a good partner to his wife. Yesterday was my wedding, and I was kind of overwhelmed with the wedding venue. Erik reassured me, saying that it's a very expensive thing to have a wedding these days. However, there was almost no decoration, and we had already only invited about 30 people in total. I couldn't believe that the venue could be that expensive, but Erik reassured me that we did not need a fancy venue to get married at. Our love was enough, and that it could calm me down because he was right. What increased my heartbeat, on the other hand, was my dad showing up, uninvited, to ruin my wedding to Erik. I was absolutely horrified at how he was ready to just destroy the happiest day of my life with his jealousy and insecurity. My dad ran up to me as I stared at him like a gaping fish with some flies in his hand. He told me that Erik was a catfish, he was robbing me all of my savings, and that he was not a doctor and did not own the apartment that we lived in. Horrified at his lies, I roared at him to get away from me. I told him that all he does in my life is just keep me away from greater things. He ruined his relationship with my mom, and he didn't want me to get a job, and now he didn't want me to get married to the love of my life because of pure jealousy. I asked him when he would grow up as a person. How long would he continue with these delusions instead of getting his life back together? I told him that I would not believe an alcoholic with abandonment issues over a man who's only shown me love and support. My dad tried to argue that he had been sober for a few days, but I was sure that it was a lie. I threatened him that if he ever showed me his face again, I would get a restraining order against him. Erik then ordered his friends to get my dad out of the wedding. He asked me if I wanted a break for a moment, but I did not, and we continued with the wedding. Later, I apologized to Erik for my dad's embarrassment and the behavior, and Erik was nice enough to reassure me that he didn't mind. How can a man not mind when he's been accused of such a bad thing? I can't even imagine. He truly is a diamond. Anyways, I was being very serious, guys. The next time my dad tried to interfere with my life, I'm just going to get a restraining order against that pathetic and insecure man. Update number 3. Hello, everyone. My name's Frankie. I don't really know how this works. My nephew brought my attention to some post my daughter's made about me, painting me as the villain in her life. My nephew encouraged me to tell you my side of the story. Jude posted about her dad ruining her wedding by calling her fiancé a catfish. Well, I'm the dad. First of all, I want to clear up a few facts. Maybe that'll get you to be more likely to believe the rest of what I have to say. My wife did not leave me because I was lazy or anything. I left her because she cheated on me. I divorced her because she betrayed my trust and Jude blamed me. She claims that if I've done better, my wife would not have cheated on me. She doesn't see her mom's fault in this at all, and even when she said that she didn't want Jude's custody, apparently she didn't want the burden of a child and wanted to start her life anew. And I was the one who stepped up. I took care of Jude by providing her with food and shelter. I wasn't too involved in her life as I was fighting my own battle with depression and alcohol, but I tried to be there as much as I could. I took good enough care of her until she got a job. I took care of her until she found that man, Erik, that I disapprove of. That's when she starts to have an issue with me. I did not like Erik because he gave me the wrong vibe. I got a wrong feeling, like the kids say these days, the bad vibe. I could tell that it was all an act from him. Maybe I'm older and a bit wiser than Jude, and that's why I saw right through it. I thought I should talk to her before she married him and moved in with him permanently. However, it backfired when Jude got angry and called me a good-for-nothing person who could not even control his own wife. I tried to be calm about it, yet she decides to leave me because she could not take care of the house expenses as I'd recently lost my job because of alcoholism. I swear, I've tried multiple times to stop drinking for Jude, but I've not been successful and I don't have the kind of money to go to a rehab center. However, my suspicions about Erik seem to be the right motivation to do so, and I've been sober for the past few weeks, ever since I started digging into Erik's past. I didn't want my daughter to be in pain, and at the end of the day, I did it all for my daughter even though I knew she did not appreciate me. I began my investigation into his apartment. I found out that the apartment was not in his name, and I then found out about some girls from his past who he had married and then left. Apparently, he would charm them and then empty out their savings into a dull wedding, without actually submitting the marriage certificate in court. When the girls would come to start living with him with all their stuff, he would steal all the valuables they had like jewelry and just leave. I'd hoped that Jude would listen to me, but she didn't. I tried for days on end, but she was embarrassed by me and thought that I was pathetic. She was so angry that she did not even invite me to her wedding, and I couldn't believe it. I took care of that girl for years when her mother decided that her daughter was a burden, and yet I was treated this way. Now that I'm sober, I'm angry at Jude for being this way towards me, like completely upset. However, I also understand that she grew up with an unavailable father like me. Well, I don't fully blame her, however, I planned on showing her the proof at her wedding with Erik, hoping that she would believe me over that liar. It did not go as I planned, however, and she humiliated me at her wedding and threatened to get a restraining order against me, so I just left. Before the wedding, I had thought that I could finally save my little girl, like I was always supposed to but rarely could. I'd hoped that this would transform our relationship to what a father-daughter relationship should be like, but this is not what happened. I'm angry at her. I had proof, but she chose the word of a man she met just a few short months ago. However, now Jude has been calling me non-stop because she's starting to regret her decision. Update Number 4. Hey guys, it's Frankie again. I remember interrupting my daughter's wedding as soon as I had enough proof to prove that her fiancé was a catfish. All I'd wanted was to warn and protect my daughter from a liar like Erik. But Jude had me thrown out of the wedding even without looking at the evidence because she was furious that I'd recently dug into her fiancé just to prove that he wasn't a good man. Well, when she thought that she knew how to differentiate between good and bad. She humiliated me in front of everyone and threw me out. At that moment, I was so angry that I took a pledge to never help her again because she had always been so ungrateful. She had more or less admitted in her post that she never truly loved me. She just used me for my house before Erik, and now Jude has been calling me because her husband did turn out to be the catfish, and he left her. She came to my house and revealed that she woke up one morning to no trace of Erik at all. All his belongings were gone, and a few gold earrings and gold pendants that she had were also gone with him. She also claimed that he had pocketed most of the savings that she's given him for the wedding and thrown her a bad wedding so that she could just, be stolen from. She apologized for not listening to me, but I was having none of it. Now I knew that she only wanted me for a roof over her head. She begged me to let her return to his house because she had nowhere else to go. She also asked me to help her fight her legal battle against Erik, claiming that she can't do it alone. Without her father's support, although I knew that the claim was bullcrap, she only wanted me to put in money for a lawyer for her. I denied her help. I told her to leave me alone, and now she's regretting calling me good for nothing. She cried and cried to garner some sympathy. However, I did not budge. I'd spent my life taking care of her, and even when she pushed me away, I thought to protect her. Still, she humiliated me in front of everyone, and now she expects that I'll forgive her. Never! I told her that she was no daughter of mine, and I told her to leave me alone. But she asked me where else she would go now that the owner of the apartment, the one that Erik had faked was his, was back. I told her to figure it out on her own, but she wasn't my responsibility anymore. It's been a few days since that day, and she's been calling me every day, and I've been ignoring her calls. She's also shown up at my house multiple times and I have not even opened up the door for her. I think that she should be shocked to know that if I have a new job of my own, but I don't feel like sharing any kind of news with her. She's an ungrateful daughter who deserves everything life is handing to her. What's up, everybody? Let's check out some main comments. Mr. Reddito here. I have 2 comments that I want to jump into. The first one comes from Laurel1516. I'm sorry to find out that your daughter has treated you so poorly throughout your life. I've read her post as well, and she does not paint you like a bad guy. I'm glad that we could hear, your side of the story and understand that Jude is just ungrateful. I can't believe that Jude blames you for her mother leaving when it was clear that you weren't at fault at all. Then she also lied about her growing up with you. I can understand that maybe she did think she grew up with the man she described, but it was clear from the post that she was too harsh on you and did not really care about you. She hated you so much that she never tried to see you trying for her. I'm glad that you're now done with her. She sounds like a handful, and I'm so glad that you're sober now and have a job. All the best, Frankie. Comment 2 from Ritz Odine. Honestly, both you and Jude sound like horrible people. I read her post and she does paint you very poorly. However, you weren't a great person either, let's not pretend. Growing up with an alcoholic parent is hard, and instead of understanding where her fears and feelings were coming from, you're letting your anger consume your compassion. She made a mistake, and instead of letting this go, you're punishing your daughter. She made a mistake and she owned up to it, and what more do you want, man? She treated you badly, but so did you, even if you were trying to be there for her whole life. Maybe she didn't feel that way. And now you're taking that anger out on her for feeling the way she felt growing up. I mean, that's gaslighting, dude. You're both terrible and need to learn to do better and be better for other people.
It's always stories like this that make me rethink every story I've ever read or narrated. It's the fact that we get 2 perspectives, right? So we're not 100% relying on the original poster's word. We get to kind of piece together the story more because we have different perspectives. And when we had Frankie, OP's father, give his perspective, it basically changed the whole game. All the comments were switching up from the original post saying, you know what, I think Jude is just an ungrateful brat. A lot of people were switching their tune. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that Jude was ungrateful and a brat? Or do you think, like the last commenter said, honestly, both of these people were pretty crappy? Let's talk about it down below, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every day. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Hit that subscribe button, and of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.